Friends, you must determine the menu. If I might invite your thought.
I was thinking about the law of karma this morning.
Oh, good. That's all you want to do about it. Think about it.
If it's true that over millennia cause has preceded effect and been followed by a new cause, then what we've arrived at today has to be just right in the sense of just what we should expect. Every encounter we make has arrived from a sort of vast chain of happenings, so it should be significant. I mean, everything should be weighty in that sense. Is that too rational of you, or are there other forces at work?
The law of karma. Did you have a question, madam?
Me? This afternoon's question, you mean? I haven't thought it out coherently. I think I asked you, where the practice of Sarada would ultimately lead us.
Anything else? Mind you, that is enough.
Did you say that's enough?
It depends on the emphasis. I didn't say enough.
Another question.
Come on, out you come.
Well, Jung wrote in his book on Job that...
Pardon?
Jung wrote in his book on Job that God was unconscious. And I've heard you say that God, now I think I get this quite right, evolves with a succession of beings who are at the peak of evolution at a particular time. So God evolves and grows through humanity, through the spearhead of humanity. And I don't understand that at all.
Don't think I do.
Yes, the Church talks about the living God, but they always seem to be referring to dead beings and past history, and as if we don't relate to them.
Any other suggestions, friends? We appear to have so far, what's the meaning of the law of karma? What's the point and what's the purpose and objectives of the Sarada principle? And Jung's contention that God is unconscious. Have I put that right, John? Does he say God is unconscious?
He's not conscious until man appears.
Hmm.
That's the...
It would help if I'd read the blooming book, wouldn't it? On the face of it, friends, it might seem that we should begin by asking, what is God? But I suggest such a question, which is the realm of the theologian, is not the concern of the yogi, or at least not the first concern of the yogi. Because the essential question must be, what is man? What am I? What is this? Unless and until the inquiring mind has the clarity of insight, whatever the chain of progression it chooses to follow, in pursuit of endless questions, a fundamental change, a fundamental development, the great gift of transformation, will not be manifest unless we know with insight what it is that is seeking to inquire, what it is that needs to know. And why does it endlessly need to know? What is knowing? Very briefly, let me just remind you of the significance of the ancient terminology. Means breath or breathing. In the ancient consciousness, breath and the activity of mind were seen as indivisible. All life was regarded as being sustained on and through the breath. And in various creation myths of Vedic character and in other cultures, the beings originally born who were perceived as having great purpose and potency in the unfolding pattern of life were born of the breath of the Creator, born of the breath of the divine, as indeed was the primal man in our own creation, our own Western favoured creation myth of Adam. Now, so to breathe meant to be conscious. I think we saw last night that there is an ancient conviction that innate in the activity of breath, there are the activating processes of evolution, working as the yang and the yin in the formation and the unfolding of life. The Ajapa mantra, the in-breath being, as it were, the oblation to the divine, and the out-breath being, as it were, the act of sacrifice, through which, by which, the experiencing being is losing itself, but in losing itself becomes the vessel for the downflow of inspirational and transformatory regenerative power. In this sense, the meaning is clear of the words of the Lord, that you must lose yourself to find it. Paradoxically, the opposite is also true. We must find ourselves in order to lose it. We must find ourselves in the sense of bringing the tangled threads into some sort of preliminary order. Bringing into balance, into effective formation, the various aspects of our life, of our body, of our mind, of our experience, bringing them into a harmonious relationship, not disintegrated, but threading together as we begin to use our intelligence to bring order into the house, putting our house in order. That's the preliminary beginning. Intrinsic in all of this, intrinsic in every meaningful path that humanity embarks upon, there must be great emphasis upon awareness. Awareness of what is. Awareness of what is taking place here. Awareness of that which seeks, of that which finds, of that which needs to know. In many cultures, that syllable stands, represents short form, contraction for related words, meta, matrix, which is womb of life, matter itself, and the fusion of the two gives us the word man, which is a verb to think. Cognate with the word manas, meaning thinking being. Neuter gender. So manas, thinking being, has got nothing or very little to do with thinking in gender terms. It refers to humanity. At means to activate. Atman means that which activates our being, our breathing and our consciousness, and is the foundation of all our experience. Many people would describe the objective of yoga as being attainment of the cognition of Atman, knowing the Atman. One of the problems of approaching it that way is that we have erected a concept. And one of the problems of all the concepts is, of course, that thought will create a variety of pictures, variable pictures, and often complex and unnecessary and unreliable and even destructive pictures. It's not quite enough to define this as the verb to think and manas as thinking being. It can be a little misleading. I suspect it would be much more correct if we were to perceive the implication that man is a being which is capable of experiencing the rise of thought, capable of seeing and knowing thought, capable of a relationship with thought, where thought has a function, thought discharges a purpose, but thought is not the only element within conscious experience. and especially important to the yogi, is the need to realize that thought should arise within space and dissolve into space, and that spaceless space, which is the inner fact of the dynamic of our deeper state of consciousness, that spaceless space is what gives birth to thought, and that to which thought must return. So that thought can arise, as it were, from the flash of freedom, and return to the free state in which containment is not. The inner meaning of this, what it comes down to, is that the head is far too dominant. The heart, within which is the door to infinity. The heart is unfunctioning. And our true state is a reversal of this. It's the state where head and all its activity is subordinate to the vastness and the true potential of our heart. This may sound a strange notion. We're obliged to relate it to the fact that in the ancient consciousness, in various traditions, the human structure was seen as having a special, a unique, and a significant place in evolution. And the human structure is very strange. Because in terms of mechanics, at our present phase of evolution, it is not efficient. We have the erect backbone, the only mammal with the erect backbone. Others may be partially or occasionally erect, but Homo sapiens, Cro-Magnon man, has the erect backbone. The physiologist cannot explain why, because it's inefficient. It's much more efficient to be on all fours, to have the spine parallel to the earth. And interestingly, if you reflect on that, with the spine parallel to the earth, there is an automatic traction exercised as the creature moves, because the reaching forward of the forelegs is against the drag of the hind quarters, and that imposes a fair degree of natural traction in the spine. Humanity has the erect backbone, for whatever reason. And that erect backbone far from being helped by our customary posture, is erect against the drag of gravity, which causes contraction of the vertebrae, a tendency for our spines to knit together, with all sorts of problems. Back problems, knee problems, flabby belly problems. Dear oh dear, why is it that the human shape, the human corpus, is inconsistent with what is so clearly efficient in other mammals? Why are we different? In various cultures, there was the conviction that the universe itself took on the form of a cosmic man, and that our human structure is the result of an impulse in nature to cause the reflection and the reproduction of a microcosm within the cosmic macrocosm. Someone was saying the other day, there's a recent scientific program. I don't know if Colin saw it. Of great profundity that normal mortals found very difficult to follow. But with all due competence, a group of scientists fed into a computer all the known data concerning, if I've heard it right, concerning the nature of the universe, and requested the computer to show the shape of the universe. What emerged could be regarded as the figure of a dancing man. What do you think about that, Colin? Did you see the program? If not, why not? We've been waiting for you. Anyhow, we've got the program here. But that's another story. There is a law of life which causes us structurally to be as we are, which causes us to lift our heads, which causes us to raise up, which causes us to strive against gravity. Why? What is the purpose of a human being in nature? In the inner sense, what is our function? Linked with that question, there must be, what is our destiny? Collectively, individually. What are we? What am I? The most important word in yoga is shunya. It's a word to be relished. In the limited sense, it's defined as meaning void. And the state of shunya, the psychological state of shunya, is called shunyata, voidness. Consciousness of void. Now, void means no thing. Nothing does not mean nothing. Nothing means no thing. The state of shunya is the unconditioned, primal consciousness before thought becomes manifest and projects into nature the organic growth of things. Shunya is a liberating concept. Atman is more specific. It throws up an image. Shunya, in some degree, helps us shed images. Helps us, perhaps, a little more to penetrate beyond and through the veil of thought into the reality that is the foundation of life, that is the flow of life, that is the breath of life, that is the causal impulse that brings all things into being, that projects the thought of the thing, that fills that thought with the breath of life, and it then becomes manifest in nature. Every little cell of existence, utterly unique. Jung maintains God was unconscious until man was manifest. And with the fulfillment of humanity, presumably, the Jungian view is that the divine beholds itself in its limitation, in its potentiality, and in its realization. Would that be so?
To say that God is limited is something.
Yes. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. we look at the Christian tradition, we find a startlingly significant conjunction within evolution. If the Christ was truth incarnate, perfected humanity, another truth and an equal truth had to be evolved by nature for that truth to become revealed. And that being was the Theotokos, literally the God-bearer. That flower and fruit of the earth, that apex of evolution, which was the perfected feminine, which nature had laboured over untold ages to make manifest. And then the light could descend and the Christ would be born. The one is indivisible from the other. In the male sense, the apex of evolution is the Buddha. In the female sense, the Theotokos. The Buddha expresses the flowering, the perfection of the impulse within nature, within humankind, to ascend from the containment of matter to the source from which all life originated. Life as a manifestation of light. The light which is the Word and the Word which is the light. The Christ is the flowering and the perfection of the divine on earth, which flowering, which perfection was possible only when nature itself had attained to the manifestation of the perfect vessel. In one sense, the Christ is a fuller expression of life than is the Buddha. Because the Buddha is reaching away from the earth, a necessary impulse and a necessary manifestation, which needs to proceed. The fulfillment of life in the meeting of heaven and earth. That is the Christ. Surely it follows that in the vast process of the unfolding of life, nature produces an incomprehensible profusion of mechanisms for the furtherance of life itself. Now, there is an ancient view that before evolution could commence, there had first to be the outflow, the manifestation, the involution. Spirit became tangible consciousness. Consciousness projected thought. Thought manifested matter. Matter became dense. Within the density of matter, there arose the profusion of life forms. There was the impulse of the outflow, the outbreathing of the divine, coincidental with the rising light, the ascending process, the impulse in all beings to return to the source, the interaction between the two, for spirit to coagulate into substance, for substance to seek to attain the light, to transmute into its primal state. These are sustained by the rhythm and the impulse of every breathing being. Within the primal organism of nature, it can be observed that nature has felt its way. Nature has experimented. Nature, it would appear, has not functioned according to a preordained, fixed, mechanistic scheme. But nature has felt its way. Some species come into being and then cease. Others survive, others thrive, others die away. All of this surely presupposes, at the causal level of life, a consciousness which is interacting with itself, through itself, by itself, returning to itself. This interaction, this rising and falling, is the substance of evolution itself. And evolution, at the inner, the highest, the causal level, is subject to modification, development, and change. Surely that fact of life in nature can accommodate this contention by Jung that adjustment is occurring within the life process and within the mechanisms that govern the unfolding of the scheme of existence. Beyond all manifestation, there is the no thing. There is the shunya. There is the beatific ultimate to which all things shall return. But between that and the primal amoeba, there is an endless process of rising and falling, development and shedding and becoming. It is said there is a law of karma. The law of karma is fundamentally the law of accumulated thought. There is an ancient concept that consciousness registers thought, retains thought as memory on the unconscious level, the subconscious level. That suppressed memory is everything that has gone before, is the fullness of the past, is the whole history of humanity, the whole history of the earth, the whole history of the cosmos. It is buried thought. Beneath the surface, to use the jargon word, there is the vast complex of the samskaras that hold the buried thought forms. These suppressed energies, in considerable degree, become toxic. It is the shedding of the repressed toxic energies beneath the surface that is the process and the intention and the goal of yoga. These repressed subconscious forces generate their own complex vibration. They affect the conscious mind in its actions, in its formation, in its functioning, as does the opposite. The great wisdom potential within the human corpus, the Buddhic level, which is playing its rays upon our conscious mind. The unconscious, the suppressed forces of the samskaras project karma. They are the experiences of the past which determine the experiences of the future. And from our karma arises our dharma, the right way that we should follow in order to make fruitful the purpose of our karma, which benignly is enabled to unfold because of the guiding presence of the Buddhic level. So the experience that comes to us is the experience we need. That which is necessary for our awakening and our growth in the here and now. To realize our Dharma is to fulfill our karma. But our karma is the result of the repressed past. We are told that the objective of yoga is liberation. Liberation from what? Surely, liberation from the compulsive earth-binding grip of the repressed psychological impulses. That are the samskaras, that binds our consciousness to karma, that results in, allegedly, reincarnation. Because that which reincarnates is the cluster of experience that demands material form and expression. So, if I've gathered the implication of your question aright, are we the slaves of our karma? Can we be free of karma? Essentially, can we be free? The objective of yoga, allegedly, is liberation. What must take place for human consciousness to find freedom? This is a strange fact, isn't it? Nature has brought into existence a creature that is earthbound, a creature that has within itself the capacity for self-fulfillment through the realization of its own wisdom potential, under the direction of its own Buddhic insights. What is happening? What is the purpose of it? What is the relevant Dharma of the here and now? What is the need of humanity in yoga terms, here and now? Awareness, in its profound sense, is the awareness of that which is not thought. which is beyond thought. The awareness that is in itself the release of the impulse of no thing, no thought. This awareness generates a light of understanding which negates, which empties away the trapped, repressed energies of the samskaras. Meditation in the true sense, the awareness sense, the sense of insight that releases the impulse of no thought, that taps the Buddhic flow. That impulse diminishes the samskaras. Pranayama in meditational form similarly diminishes the samskaras. The practice of yogasana in the meditative and aware state diminishes the samskaras. True and deep and profound awareness, which is yoga, diminishes the samskaras. Yoga is a process of elimination, not of accumulation. Education, as we understand it, is accumulation. Yoga is the other way around. The great bias of yoga is to eliminate, to shed, to diminish. It is the head that must fall away. It is the seat of ego that must diminish. The heart does not open because it is clamped by unconscious fear, by the knowledge that for the heart to open there will be greatly increased sensitivity, greatly extended vulnerability, and we fear our own capacity for sensitivity. Because we have this fear, the heart does not open. The head clamps it closed. And the heart will only be allowed to open when we have the strength and stability to be strong like a fruitful tree upon the earth, to move with the wind, to bend with the forces of nature, but not to fall, to be strong in the nurturing earth, to be aspiring towards the light. When we have this strength and sustenance from the earth, then we can cease to fear and the heart will open. When the heart opens, the head begins to die. The head begins to die in the sense that no longer is it the driving light, but it sees itself as merely a refracted light, subordinate to, dependent on, born of the inner light, the Atman, the sun of life itself, the knowing of which is the knowing of the pure light of the void. Perfect love casteth out fear. When the heart opens, the head, perhaps almost for the first time, can experience the glow of a harmony when earth and heaven, sun and moon are flowing together in right and true balance. Then the human entity has no need of theologies or religions or priests. The priesthood of life itself is invested in the human state. That which is nature seeking transformation and aspiration is flowing within the human being. That which is the ultimate, the pure light of the void, within which is infinite compassion, reaching downwards through humanity, through our inner sacrifice, down into the earth to regenerate all things. The awareness of the flowing of our breath is the beginning of a cognition of the fundamental flow of the cosmic life itself. From the divine to the earth, from the earth to the ultimate beatitude of being. To be aware is the beginning and the end of yoga. To be aware with ever increasing intensity and fulfillment is the goal of nature for humankind. And born into this is the potentiality for the celebration of the great love feast, the agape, through the merging of heaven and earth as the fulfillment of our human state. So what is knowing? What is teaching? What is discovery? True knowledge is transforming discovery. That transforming discovery comes with an impact of shock. Ultimately, it is the shock of recognition. Because life is only discovering itself, its own being, what in some sense it already knows. The true teacher, I believe, is not a teacher, but one who seeks merely to share what he or she sees. Unless there is the seeing, there is no validity in the teaching. But if the seeing is there, then the sharing is in the nature of a work of art. There's a collective perception. And a collective fulfillment. And the teacher, the seer, is merely the reflector of that which is already within the human state, within a collective human need. To be is to see. And that which knows is already immanent, is already knocking at the door of our understanding. Do we open to the beckoning of the greater life? That beckoning is the ever-present guiding star, the Buddhic truth within. From which we can never be deprived, which will never let us go. Let it happen. Let it be. let our own consciousness become that open door within which all the beauty of existence can find fulfillment.